rodenticides called SGARs. SGARs is short for second generation anticoagulant rodenticides. And we really welcome your comments tonight. Wendy was planning to read you this piece. It's from Mass Audubon. It's a direct quote from Mass Audubon. It gives a clear description of SGARs, how they work, and how they harm our environment. Snowy owls, hawks, pets, and even children. What are SGARs? Second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides are a class of poisons that prevent blood clotting. When an animal ingests a lethal dose of an SGAR, it dies slowly, making it an easy target for predators. This makes SGARs harmful for predators and pets. When they prey on poisoned rodents, they develop painful and often fatal internal bleeding. Sometimes this takes as much as a week for them to die. While federal law bans the retail sale of SGARs, these poisons remain legal and widely used by licensed pest control professionals in Massachusetts. SGARs come in labeled black boxes and include a chemical called brodifacoum, brand names Mauser, Ratak, and Talon, a chemical called bromadiolene, brand names Mackie Mini Block and Contract, and a chemical called diphenacum, brand names Dikill, diphenthioalone, and First Strike Ombre. SGARs harm our wildlife. Veterinarians at the New England Wildlife Center report treating hundreds of raptors, foxes, and coyotes for critical SGAR poisoning each year. A recent study found that 100% of red-tailed hawks tested at a wildlife clinic in Massachusetts had SGARs in their bloodstreams, but not enough to kill them. Even pets are often harmed each year. The MSPCA Angel Veterinary Hospital treats dozens of dogs, cats, and other household pets for SGAR poisoning, which, as I said before, causes internal and fatal bleeding. Wendy's not here. Oh, there's Wendy. Wendy.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I saw the agenda. I thought we were a little later than right at 6:30, so I do apologize. So basically, good evening, and we appreciate your time tonight. So Vice introduced the concept of SGARs and what are SGARs. Second generation anticoagulant.
Wendy,
Yes.
Hang on a second. I just read that.
Oh, okay. How far did you go by?
So I finished that bit.
Sorry?
Okay. So why don't you read the next part that begins with groups?
Sorry, to read the next, groups, okay. So again, I apologize for arriving a few minutes late. Groups in other towns are also working towards the goal of banning SGARs, suggesting other ways to kill rodents and educating the public. Swampscott is working on this and shared their draft with us for creating our own bylaw. There are two bills before the state Senate and House addressing this goal, S644 and H965. We received an announcement yesterday from Mass Audubon about the efforts around the Commonwealth to ban SGARs. This illustrates how much support there is for the initiative, and we can provide the text from the Mass Audubon Society. Volunteers across the state are organizing, this is the text, are organizing to protect wildlife and pets from deadly rat poisonings as part of our Rescue Raptors campaign. This is Mass Audubon. There are at least 92 communities organizing with over 40 towns and cities, reducing the use of these second generation anticoagulant rodenticides, SGARs, on public property, and 19 filing home rule petitions to request authority to restrict the SGARs on private property too. This movement continues to grow at lightning speed. The next step is to pass the state bill, an act restricting the use of rodenticides in the environment, H965/S644, which will phase out the use of all anticoagulant rodenticides in Massachusetts. This bill has been referred to the Joint Committee on Environmental and Natural Resources, which has scheduled a hearing for Monday, October 27th at 1:00 p.m. Participation in the hearing can be as simple as writing an email to the Joint Committee on Environment and Natural Resources or you can speak for 2 minutes virtually or in person.
Okay, so I will carry on there. It's pretty exciting that we're able to present this to you now because, you know, the 27th is just around the corner and that's when the hearing is going to be. Okay, so I will read, let's see, we'll have Wendy read. Yeah, Wendy, you keep reading.
Okay, well, Vi and I met with the town attorney, Dan Script, and he helped us to create SWIM's draft bylaw, which we emailed to you yesterday.
No, today.
I will bring it up on our screen in a minute. We also must create a home rule HRP for consideration by voters at town meeting as it is a prerequisite to the vote on our bylaws because the state regulates pesticides. Dan said this will not cause a problem because other towns have done so. In preparation for creation of our bylaw, I and SWIM director Leslie Rosen visited all the Nahant businesses and other entities such as the Johnson School and did a survey. We went on foot for many hours. We went to Jesmond, we went to to several of the town places, the police station, the housing authority, etc. And we asked them if they thought rats were a problem for their establishments and if they used a pest control company. And if so, did they know what poison was in the black boxes? All of these establishments had black plastic boxes behind their buildings, and they had no idea which poisons were in the boxes or what was in the boxes. This result showed that it's extremely important to educate the public around the cruel and dangerous effect of eschars, and SWIM will be involved with that, and Vi will talk more about it in a minute. There are many other poisons for killing rodents, and being here before you tonight, our first step towards attaining our goal is really to educate the public about the eschars. So Vi?
Yes, so we would like to close with a description of a very interesting event at the Swampscott Firehouse, which has a serious rat infestation and has agreed to host a pilot program of contraceptive rodent control. Wendy and I attended the startup event during which a company called Senestech provided large containers of little contraceptive-containing sausages and many black boxes to put them in. We watched as the fire chief asked the on-duty firefighters to come out and insert the little sausages into the boxes. They worked diligently and with humor as they did the job, and I got some great photos. The active ingredient in the sausages is cottonseed oil, which stops sperm from moving, would you believe? That's all it is, cottonseed oil. Since rodents are short-lived and reproduce at an extremely rapid rate, this method is very effective. This is an excellent alternative to eschars, among many, many others. I did want to point out that there are many, many, many ways to kill rodents and all kinds of different chemicals and methods. Our goal is just to get rid of this incredibly cruel method, which makes the rodents, they want to get out of a building if they're in a building, out into the open, and they go around in circles, round and round and round, until they die, and then they're really easy for the predators to catch. Okay, so I'm going to do a screen share. If I can do this, I hope. Let's see here of the actual document. Click share screen. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Can you let me bring in a document, which is the draft text of the bylaw we have prepared?
Yep, I'm trying to do that.
Allison, you probably have a copy of it also, right?
I do.
You can do it that way. I sent, so the public knows, I sent a copy of this draft bylaw to our selectmen and to Allison this afternoon.
Yeah, why don't let me pull that up. Right, I have it. Let me just screen share. All right, are you able to see this?
Yes, can the public see it? Can everybody see it?
We can see it, yeah.
Yes, the public can see it.
Yeah, so I'll just read the first introductory paragraph. So the rest are the details that Dan Scribb helped us with, along with the aid of the person in Swampscott who's actually a lawyer working on this. Section A, policy. Of greatest concern are second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides, or SGARs, that have been clearly shown to be harmful to predator species. SGARs cause damage to our larger ecosystem by the secondary poisoning of natural predators of rodents, owls, hawks, eagles, and the accidental poisoning of children and pets. SGARs create a counterproductive long-term impact on natural rodent control efforts. Whereas the town is committed to reducing poisoning and inhumane suffering to both target and non-target wildlife, as well as pets and children, this policy aims to specifically codify the application and use of alternatives to SGARs with reasonable consideration to more humane methods. Section B, applicability. This policy applies to all properties in Nahant. This policy only applies to the use of second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides. And then it goes along with all the definitions. And if you want to slide it down, Allison, if you can. Definitions, all of this Dan examined. And so then section D, and it lists these chemicals and the brands. And then section E, recommended rodenticide methods. Nahant is committed to the use of safer and more humane methods for rodent control. Therefore, recommended methods of rodent control should be electric shock boxes and contraception bait stations. Snap traps are permitted, but only if baited with non-poisonous substances. Glue boards are not recommended as they cause a long and cruel death. So section E is just recommendations. And then there's the enforcement part, which Skip put in for us. Dan Scribb put in for us. And then he put in section D, the legal severability, effective date, etc. So to close it out, we plan to spread information about our bylaw, including the mailing of an informational postcard to all Nahant households in the spring before town meeting. We will work with Attorney Dan Scribb to finalize our draft bylaw text and create the home rule petition. We thank you for your attention and we hope you will support our anti-SGARs bylaw. And now I really welcome comments and questions.
Oh, thank you, Vi, and thank you, Wendy. We have, I believe, John Coulon on with us. John, do you have any comment?
Well, I can refer you to a presentation made before this body 2 years ago by a master's in public health candidate from Southern New Hampshire University. And she had spent the summer researching Nahant's experience during the summer of 2023 with rats and what the state of rodent control or pest management is. And she made a PowerPoint presentation that was very well presented and well received at that time. And in it, she referenced SGARs, as Vi did earlier. And she referred to a program at the federal level, which can be accessed at cdc.gov/onehealth. And that is at the federal level because rats are obviously not a uniquely Nahant problem, or even North Shore of Boston or New England. No, it's a national problem. And so it's been addressed in all kinds of weather situations. And the methods have been studied as far as not only success rates, but also their unintended effects on other species, and it's unfortunately a situation that comes up whenever whenever the rat population spikes and it goes up, and people tend to resort to the more extreme methods. And we have a very difficult time reminding people of our commitment to integrated pest management, as IPM, as it's known in the industry. Integrated pest management, meaning understand the pests that you are addressing, understand where they live, how they breed, how their population increases, what it is they feed on, and how to control their opportunity for shelter and food. And unfortunately, the human tendency is to go right for the most lethal, the most extreme approaches, particularly when you are bothered by seeing or experiencing an animal such as a rat. I liken it to seeing some blood and going right for the tourniquet instead of going for the direct pressure and such. Everything we learned in our lowest level first aid courses. Unfortunately, we were not taught any level of integrated pest management, and our access to rodent baits, poisons, and traps, and the extreme and immediate methods becomes very easy for us, accessible for us, particularly if we will bring in the state licensed pest control operators. Unfortunately, most people contacted in many surveys, more than half, state that their communities do not have a rodent management problem. And you can see rats anywhere. And of those who said that they did have that problem, only 38% stated their plan had been successful. In the PowerPoint that was presented in 2023, one slide reviewed the options for control, they being physical, biological, chemical, and electronic. And rodenticides are one of the various options in the chemical approach. I have to say that advancements have been quite interesting and rapid in some areas of rodent control. And no matter how innovative the approach is, I always get back to the basics. Why do we use so much rat poison when we know that if you build them out and starve them out, they self-regulate. They will breed more when they have the food that to live on. They will shelter more close to the food, a regular source of food, when they are able to dig burrows and chew into buildings without being addressed. So not only do the most powerful rodenticides get into the food cycle of animals, but far too often it is unnecessary if we exercise the basics of prevention, of storage of garbage, and putting it out properly for collection, and paying attention as if it really mattered, because it certainly really does. And far too often, out of sight, out of mind. And so if I don't look at it, maybe it does not matter. And yet again, everything we do, especially in a small 1 square mile community such as Nahant, where whatever we do affects everybody else on that island. At this point, I would ask if there are any questions For me, in my capacity as a public health official of 38 years running thus far.
Yeah, John, if I could, since that presentation in 23, have we, the town, made any advancements in controlling the population?
To my understanding, we have not changed what we do. We attempt to control the food on public property. We attempt to call in state licensed pest control operators if we observe burrows or any other sign of rodent shelter. And when we receive a complaint of not only rodent activity, but improper storage of trash and garbage, I go and address it. And we tend to clear up these problems when it is brought to our attention. It pops up here and there. Obviously, everyone does not think of one mind. So it does take that saying that's become familiar to us all. If you see something, say something. That's the only way that I can respond.
John, if I can interrupt here, my wife Leslie has a comment that she'd like to
Yeah,
make.
I just like to make this because I have a 7 p.m. other Zoom meeting. I was privileged to work with Wendy going around to the town businesses to talk to them about their rat problems. And I think the big takeaway here is people want the rats gone. They have generally no idea what's inside these boxes. When they know that there are alternatives that don't kill the hawks and the owls and don't pollute the ecosystem and don't present a danger to pets and small children, they are open to something else. What they need is alternatives. And I think if we give them alternatives and if we give them education, that is the way forward so that we stop polluting the ecosystem, having rodents, much as we hate them, we don't want them to have horrible deaths that then hurt the ecosystem. People were very, very open to us once we started talking about this problem that lots of people don't think about, and they just want the problem to be solved. We can solve this problem in better ways for the ecosystem, for the raptors, for the children, and for the pets. That was my experience going around with Wendy. And that's why I support our moving forward if we can on this measure.
I just wanted to introduce Wendy Smith Rosen, who is a swim director, and her husband, James Hyder. And your address is which?
Leslie Smith Rosen.
It's Leslie Smith Rosen.
Hey, Leslie.
We're at 18 Mayolis Road, and I worked with Wendy we went to all the businesses. It was very, very instructive, but people were very open to alternatives as long as alternatives exist, which they do, but they need education. And I feel that the residents of Nahant, when they see what this can do to the ecosystem and that there may be alternatives they could pursue, would be very, very open to this.
And you said nobody was hostile to the idea.
No one was hostile. No one was hostile.
No one said they wanted to stick with the poisons.
Yeah, once they knew what the poisons could do, nobody wants that kind of stuff to happen. They just don't know. And their pest companies generally don't tell them what's going on. So it's a lot of this is education and having the town move forward on a problem that can be solved and an important problem for our ecosystem.
We have a little mouse problem ourselves. I've just ordered some of the mouse birth control from one of the companies that offers that. And so we'll be putting that down as soon as it arrives.
Okay, Patrick, do you have any comment?
Sure. Yeah, when we were talking about this today, I was talking to Allison earlier and saying I remember at least I think 4 bald eagles that I'm aware of that have scavenged, or suspected of scavenging rodents, poisoned rats, and then succumbing themselves. So, and it's just been a horrible. I'm on several mailing lists and environmental mailing lists, and I was just looking back, and though weren't sure, Tufts wasn't exactly sure what had happened to the eagle, but they were saying that it was just on the ground for 4 days alive, and it was just suffered a terrible death. So, for that to happen to, flagship species like bald eagles, and I know we have a lot of ospreys and um, other, the snowy owls, very another flagship species around here that we know and love. I think considering there are so many alternatives, effective alternatives that unfortunately we've used around my yard also. But there are effective alternatives, and I think that this makes perfect sense to me that we would try to go down this path and reduce the harm, and still, I know we do have some rat problems, and it's more of a management problem than an eradication goal. It's always hard to kill every last rat, and they come back quickly. But I think we can manage without the poisons.
Good, good. Well, I voice my support also, and I'm very much in favor of this potential warrant article. I think what I like best is that it's a town-wide solution. I know we've talked about this before, and we were in that conversations more toward pinpointing certain areas that had traps out. It was my opinion then and is now that we going after specific locations that have this rodenticide out doesn't solve the problem. We have to embrace it as a town, just as I also believe that we need to embrace it as a state, and I hope that bill goes forward. Do we have a consensus, Jean and Patrick, that we support the warrant article as presented?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, good, good. Vi, and Wendy, is there what else would you like from us? How else can we help you?
Well, your support is clearly important for us. And I just did want to tell you one anecdote, which is very comforting, which is Ocean View, the wedding venue at the end of Willow
Yeah.
Road, has had black rat boxes around, and I've seen the truck there surfacing the boxes. And one of our directors went in and talked to the manager and talked about this situation. And then, to my amazement, I was walking by looking for rat boxes, thinking, why would a bride want to walk past rat boxes to her up to that platform? And there weren't any, but there were these funny looking rocks, and they have installed plastic rocks. So I walked over to have a look, and they're hardwired into the house. So those are electric rodent killing boxes. And they didn't even say anything about it. They're like the poster child of just hearing the story and doing what I consider the right thing. Yes, just your support, and the FinCom will review it, and we'll be working with Dan Script. So we really are very grateful to your giving your time tonight to our presentation.
No, we appreciate all of your efforts in this, and look forward to moving this forward. And I like your story as far as the Ocean View and the rat boxes. I suspect that they also realized that they had a marketing issue if they've got those planted all around the outside of the building. So he probably gave him some help there too. Yeah. All right.
Rob,
So
one more question. John, is there any way or any means of accurately tracking how successful or not the programs are with the rodent population?
That's a good question. It's a question that my colleagues near and far have wrestled with, and sometimes it's determined by the number of carcasses that are found, but they don't die in the open all the time. And what is the frequency of complaints? Well, that ebbs and flows, so it's not a really accurate data driven, except what complaints you get, because the complaints become very anecdotal. So my answer effectively is no to your question. But
Thank you.
but you can take any method you want, and the data you get from it is it can be challenged. But I think it's a good question to bring up, certainly.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, are we all set? Can we, to move on?
I just wanted to in procedurally for a citizen's petition to be on the town meeting warrant, and I think Vi and Wendy are probably aware of this, but they have to be submitted to the town clerk by the end of January to be included. So I know you're already way ahead of the game, and I know you've been working with Dan on drafting it. So, but I just wanted to make sure that that date was in your head as well.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you for all your help.
Yes, thank you, Allison, and thank you all for listening to us tonight and for your support ongoing. We
You're
will
very
do our
welcome.
best to deliver.
You're very welcome. Thank you. So, next item under new business, we have a vote to approve the lobster trap storage leases. I move the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the lobster trap storage leases for the term of 1 year from September 1st, 2025 to August 31st, 2026 to the following people: Anthony Alessi, Bill Mahoney, Jim Maletti, Josh Mahoney, Justin Mahoney, Rick Maletti, Steven Scaglione, Tim O'Keefe, and Tucker Allard. All people mentioned have signed the lease agreement and have paid the required storage fee. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion. Okay, I just have one comment to make. After looking through the contract, there is a provision at the very beginning here regarding that only lobster traps will be stored or allowed on the premises. Rope, pallets, barrels, buoys, boats, trailers, or other related material will not be allowed or stored on the premises. My concern is the mention of boats. We, for the last few years, have allowed the fishermen to move their tenders down to the area, the trap area. They had been leaving them in the parking lot over the winter, or next to the parking lot down the wharf over the winter, and they were getting in the way. They were not so much in the way as they were just being picked up during the storms and moved around, and it was a hazard to some of the boats that were stored there. So through the town administrator, we have been allowing them to keep them down on the dump. I mentioned this now. I don't know that we need to do a contract change now, but I just wanted to make everybody aware that this, especially in my opinion as Wharfinger, is not only okay, it's necessary. So something to think about for the contract next year, just to get that in line with how we're practicing it right now.
Robbie, how does this line up with last year or years past lease agreements? It just seems as though if we've been letting them put the trams down there, we should continue to do that.
And that's what I'm suggesting, Gene.
Okay.
That's what I just said.
Right.
What I'm suggesting is that the contract is not aligned with what actual practice. So I'm just mentioning that for future contracts, we should change that language in order to not, or reference that these tenders are okay.
Good. Thanks.
Okay?
Yep.
Would it be easy enough to change that language formally now, or is it?
I think they've all been signed already. Is that correct, Allison?
So that's
So I think we can just follow, and Dan might correct me if I'm wrong, but if past practice has been to allow, that storage, then I think that's fine. And in the next lease, we can certainly adjust. I'll make a note to adjust the verbiage before they're signed off on.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's fine. Not a problem.
Yeah, that's what I anticipated we would do. So I wanted to get that in so that it becomes part of the record. Okay,
I did
so
just want to mention one other thing, Rob, about that though. There shouldn't be anything else stored down there in terms of bait or anything of that nature. So You know, when individuals have signed off on these leases, they're signing off that none of that is being stored down there. And I want to make sure of that, just because if bait is being stored, it could attract rodents, like we just talked about. So just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that too.
Excellent. That things to be considered. Let's see. So that brings us to a roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Pat O'Reilly, aye.
And Rob Thibault, aye. So next item is the vote to approve an event request for the Nahant Lions Club annual turkey shoot. I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the event request for the annual Nahant Lions Club turkey shoot, Saturday, November 22nd, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the DPW garage. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Great event.
Very good. I haven't tried it yet. I'm sure I guarantee I wouldn't win anything, but I would like to watch others, that's for sure. Roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Pat O'Reilly, aye.
And Rob Thibault, aye. And that brings us to ongoing business and the town administrator search update. I believe we have Skip Frary out there, who chaired the town administrator search committee. And Skip, do you have some thoughts to share with us?
Yes, good evening. We sent a letter of transmittal off to the board. Are you in receipt of that?
We have it. Yes, thank you.
All right. My question is, do you wish to peruse that further and discuss that further, or would you like to give me an update on where we stand?
We have not discussed the letter to any extent, but I'll start by offering my thoughts. I was very impressed with the degree of work that went into this, the diligence in making sure all the boxes were checked, the due diligence in making sure that all the candidates would meet the qualifications, and yeah, overall, just very impressed with the work that was done. Very well organized, and very grateful for all the effort that went into it. Comments from Gene or Pat?
Yeah, I guess I'd have a question, and that is, when will we address this, and when will we put it into place?
Well, I think that in order to meet the requirements of the open meeting law, if we're going to make a recommendation and decide to and a choice with respect to the final candidate, then that would have to occur at another meeting where it was actually listed on the agenda. For tonight, we just had a status update, and I don't think that would be adequate to let us go to the next step. Dan, any thoughts?
No, that's true. You can do it at your next meeting, not a problem. The Town Administrator Act says in multiple places that we should try to get this done as soon as possible. So to make sure we're not running afoul of the open meeting law and make sure we have our I's crossed and our I's dotted, T's crossed, the next meeting would be the most appropriate forum.
I'm trying not to have my eyes crossed.
Thank you for emphasizing that.
Allison and I were talking a little bit this afternoon about the need to have a meeting regarding the MBTA 3 update. We've got to do a final approval on that. I believe, Allison, help me out here. 3A, it's in the hands of the FinCom now.
Right. So I was going to give an update during my report, but yes, the Finance Committee is meeting tomorrow night. And so after that, depending on, if they finalize what they're going to have for the warrant book or whether or not they need to meet again, the board is going to have to meet to set a date for a special town meeting. So my thought was if the finance committee was done deliberating, everything tomorrow night, that the Board of Selectmen could possibly meet next week to set a date for special town meeting.
So we could pencil in for next Tuesday or next Wednesday, whatever works best for everybody.
Yeah, that's fine, either night.
Patrick, any hesitation?
No, I think that sounds good.
Your schedule is clear?
Yeah, let's get that on the agenda. Worst case, we could, if the 3A is not ready to be set, we can still move forward with the town administrator work.
Absolutely, I agree. So Allison, can you set that up, that we'll schedule a meeting for, I'll say Wednesday, just to give it
Yeah.
extra day? Yeah. And we'll have this as one of two, or maybe just by itself, items on the agenda to get this next step taken.
Okay.
Okay, Gene?
Yes, yeah, that's fine. Hey, on comments to be made, I passed this by and I shouldn't have. I don't know, did everybody get the email from Candace Cahill? With regard to
I did see it, yes, yep, yep.
the bike and bus lane. Very, very well done, very well thought out. And I'm just suggesting that maybe we can discuss it at this same next meeting next week, after we've all had a chance to read it.
Oh, well, we can certainly do that.
Good
Yeah.
information.
Yep, okay. Um,
Before we move on, Rob, I just wanted to also thank Robert Ferry, Dave Walsh, Julie Tarmy, Jen McCarthy, Josh, Bob Fields, Donnelly Leonardo, Dan McMacken, and Rob Steinberg for their work on the Town Administrator Search Committee. They've done a great job and over the summer and had many meetings. They've done great deal of due diligence, which is reflected in the work and the report to us. And also thank Kristen Taylor, as they did, Dan Scripp and Chief Furlong for their support throughout the effort. So it was an all-star team, and I think it's a great result. And I think the due diligence was performed at every level, and I look forward to moving forward.
Well said, Patrick. They started out with 22 candidates. That's a lot of reading, a lot of studying, a lot of researching that they all worked their way through. And I know just in looking at a couple of the candidates that I was aware of, they had some difficult conversations, I'm sure, as far as choosing the best of the best. Let's
I'd like to
see.
thank you very much, and that we'll be glad to join you again in another meeting if that's necessary, or whatever you feel. But thank you very much. I'll pass on your comments and Patrick's comments to the rest of the committee. And I'd like to say it's wonderful to see John Coulon again, because before he started his 38 years of public health, he gave me basic first aid training many, many years ago. And I worked with John over the years, many years, as our health agent when I was a selectman, but way before that. And I'm glad to see John continuing to serve.
I absolutely agree with you, Skip. I haven't known him as long as you have, but he's been a treasure for this town. We're very lucky to have him.
It's interesting to hear him talk about tourniquets, because that flashed right back to when he first taught me of tourniquets 40 to 50 years ago. So let's leave it there.
And how many have you applied since?
2.
Okay.
All right.
And it all went as planned.
Yes, it did.
Excellent.
Do you have any more questions for myself or that I can bring back to the committee?
Looks like we're all set, Skip.
All right. Well, thank
Again,
you. I'll
thank you.
sit back in the background and enjoy it as a former selectman. Thank you very much.
All right. You're
Thank
welcome.
you,
Thank
Skip.
you. Let's see. So that brings us to the town administrator's report.
Yeah, so that's me. So the first thing I just wanted to mention that I found out today, and I thought that everyone in the town should know, is that longtime Nahant resident Virginia Fisk passed away yesterday. Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, was she 105 years old?
That's my understanding.
Right.
She was right up there with Corintha Sears.
Atlanta, yeah.
Yeah,
So
but they were right there. Yeah.
yeah,
Sheila would know, even I would, but right around there.
so I know that the last time I saw her was at the Purple Heart ceremony in August, and she looked wonderful. So it's sad to hear of her passing, but I know that she obviously lived a very full and great life. So just wanted to notify individuals of that. Um, the other thing I was going to comment on was the open house that the town hosted, well, the MBTA hosted at Town Hall last Thursday night to discuss the Linway multimodal project. There were a bunch of attendees, and the way that the MBTA set it up, they had, a bunch of different easels set up with pictures, and then they had like the Linway drawn out on a big map in the middle of the room. And then they just had representatives walking around from the MBTA. There was a representative from DCR there too, just answering questions that individuals had. And, gave them an opportunity to speak about what they wanted to see in a redesigned Linway and what they didn't want to see. And a lot of what I heard was there's concern about, having the Linway cut down by a lane. They're worried about if, there's an added bus lane or if there's added bike lane, how that's going to affect commutes. There's no design yet for the project. So the MBTA is just gathering input right now. But I would think that over the next few months, they're going to start working on a design after taking all this input, and we'll have to see, what they come up with. So I did want to say I thought the open house was productive and allowed residents to kind of give their voice to the project. So we'll see what happens with that. Again, the finance committee, the planning board met last week to finalize their recommendation for the 3A MBTA zoning bylaw. So the finance committee, it's in their hands now. They're meeting tomorrow night to review it, give a recommendation if they are going to have a recommendation, and to kind of organize what's going to become part of the town meeting booklet that has to get sent out to residents. If they're able to just meet tomorrow night, again, what we just spoke about, next week at a Board of Selectmen meeting, the board can decide on a date to have special town meeting to vote on this new bylaw. So right now, it looks like mid-November is more realistic. A special town meeting has to be posted 14 days in advance. And I'm working with the printer in regards to the book that has to go out to residents. They need 2 weeks lead time on that. And that book has to be at every residence 7 days in advance of a special town meeting. So there's all these, timeframes that we have to keep in mind when setting the actual date. So it is dependent on whether the finance committee is going to meet more than just tomorrow night. So I'll update you as that progresses too. Last Wednesday, I had a Zoom meeting with the Valley Road neighborhood, Upper Valley Road, to talk about, there's some safety concerns that was brought to our attention from residents that live there about difficulty seeing because of the bend in the road, and if there's cars parked on the side, and it causes, cars to drive up on sidewalks or over, property. And so we just had a neighborhood meeting to discuss, options for how we can address this. Another concern that was brought up is that there are a lot of buses and trolleys, mostly heading to the Ocean View for events, that go down Valley Road. And they're, large vehicles to be going down that narrow, and it's a really, winding street. So after some discussion, and Chief Furlong was on there, and DPW Superintendent Zach Taylor was on the meeting too. We did come to the conclusion that it would be good to put up signs, no trucks and no buses, on that part of Valley Road. So we plan on doing that. And then I also agreed to speak with the Ocean View and asking them if maybe they can work with the buses and trolleys that bring in wedding parties and other, large parties to not use Valley Road and instead use either Spring or Ocean. That's a more, direct line to the Ocean View. So I'm going to be following up on that. And then we just basically said, the town's going to take a look at the parking options. Zach also indicated that we might take a look at widening that four-way intersection there because it is very difficult to see when you're stopped at the stop sign. But all of that will take a lot, will take more work. Obviously, widening an intersection would take some consultant work to take a look at it and things like that. So there's still some work to be done there. But I think that after that meeting, the residents in that area seem to be satisfied with the more, immediate solutions that we had come up with. So,
Let me just add, Allison, I had the opportunity to sit in for part of that, and I really like the ability to call a neighborhood meeting quickly and easily for people and who are the immediate concerns on an issue, and give them the opportunity to share ideas comfortably, conveniently. I thought the forum worked great. It's not something that I thought of before, but I really like it. So congratulations to you for arranging that.
thanks. I did get some feedback. Individuals had hoped to meet in person, but I thought that the Zoom format was, did work well for those that attended. And also considering that the department heads that were joining, aren't from town, and we decided to do it, kind of later, we did it at 7 o'clock at night so that people could attend, after work obligations or family obligations during the day. So the Zoom forum seemed to make sense for me. So thank
Very
you.
good. You're welcome.
I wanted to, there was an article in the paper. The library is having a public forum at the library regarding rent control. It's in collaboration with the Essex County Community Organization, being held at the Nahant Library on October 30th at 5:30. So they're just going to have a discussion on a number of housing bills that are currently before the legislature, as well as a proposed ballot initiative to stabilize rent. So that might be of interest, to residents and they may want to attend. So I just wanted to highlight that. It's been brought to my attention, or there's been questions about 29 Valley Road. It appears that the house is vacant. And there were some concerns that the lawn was not, was very overgrown. And there was concerns about if there were any public, health issues there. I spoke with John Coulon. He did go down to the residence and walked the perimeter and took a look. There's no immediate public health concerns. However, he did note that the lawn itself is severely overgrown. And so, sorry, my light just went out in my office. And so we will, the property is vacant. The resident has moved. We are likely going to be sending a letter to ask that the property be cleaned up just to prevent, any future health hazard or issues. So I just wanted to state that as well. And then there's also been some concerns that are brought up about the new construction happening from the old Coast Guard properties. There's a new house that's very much being built on Castle Road, and there's concerns about the size of the house. I've addressed it with our building department, and they've assured me that the plans for the house have all been, signed off, and they are all conforming and for the size of the lot. So people have concerns that it looks, like an extremely big structure there. It might just be because, we're not used to having, well, the houses haven't been there for a while, but the houses that were there were rather on the small side. So again, it was brought to our attention. I had the building department look into it, and they've done their due diligence, and they are of, meet requirements.
Hey, Allison, thank you for being so proactive on this. We usually wait for something on the order of citizens' comments before we get to it. This brings it right out, and we're able to address it with people that have questions.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, I think that is all that I had for my report.
Very good. Thank you so much, Allison. That brings us to citizens' comment. We've got a few people out there. Anyone have something they'd like to offer for conversation?
I do. Vi Paddock, 172 Willow Road.
Oh, hi, bye.
Hi.
Yeah, go
Back
ahead.
again. Yes, so I've always been concerned about the intersection of Willow Road and Wharf Street at the wharf at Marjoram Park. And now they've put the crosswalk set up in. I don't know when they're going to paint it. But it definitely accentuates the problem with one stop sign at a place that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 entrances with one stop sign. And we have quite a few children running around in this area, quite a few actually, 3, but 2 doors away from me, little ones. And it's really hard to know what to do because of the lack of stop signs. So I was wondering if maybe the board could have a look. The one stop sign is when you're coming out of Wharf Street onto Willow Road. As I'm sure you know, those stop signs, like, I don't know, maybe 40 feet before Willow Road, because there are trees in the way. But if and that's hard to get out because of the hedge if you're looking to the left. And then if you're coming from the wharf, people go in and out both sides. And then the people who live at the corner park all the way up to Willow Road. And sort of you have people going in 2 different directions on the 2 slots in and out of the wharf area. And then with the bus stop there, of course, the bus stop so far, my neighbor Harmeet has been standing in the rose bush to get on the bus, but now he'll be able to stand at a proper bus stop, along with other people who use our public transportation. But anyway, to make a long story short, I think it would be really great if the board could have a look at that intersection and see why we're doing all this work getting 2 crosswalks in, which is a huge improvement. Can we have a look at better traffic control and have more than just one stop sign, more guidance and more help for the public? Thank you.
Thank you, Vi. I agree. It's always been a little bit of a confusing intersection, and I've seen quite a large group of young kids down there over the course of this summer. So I think your concern is extremely timely. So I'm sure that Allison will get in touch with Zach and Chief Furlong and have everybody have a look at it to see if there's anything more that we should have done.
Hey, speaking of Zach, kudos to Zach. What a great job they've done on getting ready to repave the roadways down on Castle and Nahant Road. They did that all in one day, cleaned it all up, and it's ready to go.
It's quite a project. They've got a large fleet of trucks that are working on that whole project. It's very busy around here during the morning. Usually Fox Hill is very quiet, so we know there's a lot going on down the other end.
But they're doing a particularly good job at it.
I agree. Anything more from the on the citizens' comment?
I have a comment.
And yes, your name.
This
and
is
address, please.
Heather Goodwin, 22 Breezy Hill Terrace. And I agree with Gene when he says he's glad that we can talk openly about the Coast Guard housing, because I do not know, and I've been following this for 10 years, maybe longer, how that house fits into what the town agreed upon at town meeting. How? It, I mean, we were either lied to, saying that houses that were going to be built there were going to be fit in with the neighborhood, or that does not, it can't possibly be the right size. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it. Doesn't seem good enough when there was literally 10 years of discussion about what was going to be built there, size wise, like size wise. So how do we find out for sure? Like, is there an ADU attached to that? Like, and that's why it's that big? Is like, how is that even possible?
Heather, I'm no expert on it, but I know
Like,
that
how do we as citizens get the exact sort of like measurements on what we agreed upon at town meeting and how this house applies to those things we agreed upon?
my immediate thought was obviously the original plans are all available online, but I have to imagine that it would be easy enough to arrange a meeting with our building inspector to just have a conversation about how it all works.
Well, I mean,
Any thoughts,
people,
Peg?
I'm not one of the people who contacted you about that house, but I do live right across the street from it. So I have heard constructions for over, I don't know, 2 years in that area. But honestly, I don't like people are bringing it up to you and you just said, it's all good. Like I mean, whatever the case, it can't be unbuilt, but as someone who lives in the neighborhood, who's watched the meetings, who participated in all those all those things, that house is just kind of like a slap in the face to this neighborhood. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't
Allison,
supposed to be like that, you guys, and you all
Heather,
know it.
Heather,
Yeah.
I disagree with your comment that it can't be unbuilt. That's happened before where someone did exceed the allowances,
I mean, do you
and the
guys think
house
it fits the
and the house
neighborhood?
was partially dismantled in order to meet the requirements. It
I mean,
can
have
be.
you seen the back of the house?
I have. I
Like, have you
walk by
seen that
there.
it's three
I walk by
floors?
there daily with my dog.
I don't know. I'm just disappointed as a lifetime Nahant resident that that's what this land that I'm just disappointed. And I want you guys to know it, and I'm going to say it to you. I'm just disappointed. Thank you for listening.
I'm Carrie Collins, 22 Breezy Hill Terrace, and just to reiterate, that's not what you promised this neighborhood. And what I fear, or maybe I want, is that every other house that's going to see that's built, they're not going to even want those properties anymore because of the monstrosity that just went up. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Motion to
Yeah,
adjourn.
I have to say, I can imagine why they're bringing this up. The first time I went by, I had the same reaction. And I have yet to talk with the building department about its size, but it does hit you.
Oh, it's striking. I agree with you.
Yeah. Some of that seems to be perspective, though. It's an L shape. So from I think I did look up the building permit myself when I saw it under construction, and I said, "Oh, it's L shaped." So, from pretty much all angles, it looks pretty huge, but it is thin. It's like one room wide, but L shaped. So, and it's tapered, but it does present as I think a bigger house than it is. But it's a good size house. It's definitely, I think, 3,000 square feet. So gross living area. So, but from what I can tell, also it seemed to meet all the zoning requirements.
I agree with what you Patrick. From standing at the street, looking at that end that's closest to the sidewalk and looking down the side of that building, that section to me couldn't be much more than 20 feet wide.
Right.
But when you're standing a little bit further up the street and looking at it, as far as looking into the L, you don't notice that. You just notice this very imposing structure.
Dan, I just wanted to bring Dan into the conversation. My understanding is there is a formal process if a resident wanted to submit a complaint to have this looked into further. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
That's correct. They can file a request for zoning enforcement, and to the extent it's a zoning issue, and I say that because there are zoning issues and there are general bylaws issues, and they're not the same thing. But to the extent it's a zoning issue, yeah, they will get a reply because that's the law. Now keep that in mind. Keep in mind, there's more than just zoning going on here, because when town meeting passed this article, my memory is the only size restriction outside of zoning was a 25% FAR. So to the extent the zoning is in compliance and the FAR limitations in compliance, the building will be in compliance. And my understanding is that building department already looked into this and even considered the 25% FAR. They found no issue with it. But that being said, yeah, every resident has a right to file a request for zoning enforcement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Oh, we had that second. Roll
Seconded.
call vote.
Third, Pat O'Reilly, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rob Tibbo, aye. Thank you so much, everyone. Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.